When I first got wind of this, I had to do a few breathing exercises because I was in a place where if I really wanted to say what I wanted to say, I probably would have got kicked out of there, or at the very least had people looking at me kind of funny. And I wish I could say I'm surprised by this, but a piece of me was saying to myself, it's no way that no jury, after what we saw in the video with Tyre Nichols over a year ago, would have found these three not guilty. For once, I actually was being optimistic that they would actually get it right, especially considering that the cops happened to be black, and Tyre Nichols was black himself. But you know what? That blue wall, that is what probably ended up giving them the protection. Now, we all know if Tyre Nichols had been a white dude, they probably would have found them guilty of every single charge possible. So in case y'all are unaware, a major update in the trial involving these three degenerates just came out, and it's stated, as you can see right there, 3 former Memphis police officers found not guilty in the death of Tyre Nichols. Mind you, they had several charges attached to them, and they were found not guilty on every last charge. Not one charge were they found guilty of. Now, I also have to preface this as well. These were the state charges. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they had federal charges as well. And remember, when this story first broke, I was on this story heavy when it happened. And I was so pissed because we all saw that video and we saw how all of that went down. Like, these three, as well as the others that were there, beat this man to death. Like, they beat him within an inch of his life, and then he died in the hospital while he's crying out for his mom, and they're mocking him, they're laughing at him, they're recording themselves. And you mean to tell me a jury looked at them and all the evidence and said, oh, they're not guilty? Let me go ahead and just get into it. And by the way, like I said, y'all probably was expecting me to maybe do a live about this, and I would have, but I just didn't have the time to squeeze in a live, so that's why I'm doing this as a pre-record. And y'all will see this right ahead of the True Crime Sunday. A jury found 3 former Memphis, Tennessee police officers not guilty of all charges in the death of Tyre Nichols, including the most serious charge of second-degree murder. The men, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith, faced a total of 7 counts in a state trial for their role in the 2023 fatal beating of Nichols, a 29-year-old father who had told officers he was on his way home when they stopped him. They hugged each other and their attorneys after the verdict was read. The Nichols family left the courtroom without speaking to the media after the verdict. They spoke briefly with Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy, who said they were devastated and outraged. I think we can understand why they'd be outraged by this result given the evidence, he said. A total of 5 former officers were initially fired and charged with both federal and state crimes related to Nichols' death. 2 pleaded guilty in federal court last year and testified against their former colleagues. Both Emmett Martin and Desmond Mills also intend to plead guilty to state offenses in which they're probably going to get the slap on the wrist, just like the 3 we're talking about right now. This was the second time the 3 officers faced trial. Last fall, they were convicted in a separate federal case of witness tampering for misleading superiors about their actions. Okay, so the federal thing already happened. So the federal was just more light. In the state, this is where the state trial was where the heavy stuff was. So yeah, they pretty much walked. They pretty much walked away from this. Bean and Smith were acquitted of violating Nichols' civil rights, but the jury found Haley guilty. The officers pulled Nichols over on January 7, 2023 for a traffic stop that spiraled into violence. Nichols ran on foot after being pepper sprayed and threatened with a stun gun. Graphic body camera footage and a police neighborhood surveillance camera captured officers then either restraining, kicking, punching, or striking him with a baton as they took him into custody. He eventually went into cardiac arrest at the scene, according to a responding paramedic and medical records. He died at a hospital 3 days later. An autopsy attributed his death to blunt force trauma to the head. Throughout the trial, the sequestered jury from the Chattanooga, Tennessee area watched video footage of the arrest multiple times from multiple angles, and they still came up with the verdict of not guilty. That's the crazy part. Prosecutors said the men on trial either used or witnessed excessive force and failed to stop it. Officers also didn't alert medical responders. The prosecution said that Nichols had been struck in the head. Over about 2.5 days, prosecutors moved quickly, calling only 5 witnesses, including Mills, a medical examiner, and Nichols' mother, Rovon Wells. Delivering her closing arguments Monday, Assistant District Attorney Melanie Headley encouraged jurors to listen closely to the videos. She said that as Nichols struggled with his injuries before being cuffed, he moans for help. Who was supposed to help him? Those guys. They've got a duty to help him. And they don't, she said. No witness told you Tyre punched, Tyre kicked, Tyre spit, he didn't cuss, he didn't do any of those things. Headley also emphasized the law of criminal responsibility for the jurors, which they could use to convict the officers of second-degree murder using proof that a defendant's guilt is based on the conduct of another person. They're all out there, she said. They're all doing it together. Defense attorney for the 3 former officers pushed back and said that although Nichols' death was a tragedy, he posed an unknown risk to officers because he fled the stop before he was searched. And see that, I'm like, if that's all they really got from it, then why did you even bother going to trial? That means y'all was ready to let them go just based on that alone. And even with that, that was no reason for them to do what they did. You basically excused their actions. And before I go any further, remember, these cops that did this were a part of that quote-unquote Scorpion unit. They basically, let's just say, an organized gang with inside that police department. Each defendant called his own use of force experts who testified that the individuals used their police training to escalate force against Nichols to handcuff him when they say he resisted. The defense also sought to blame Nichols' death on Martin, who was shown on video repeatedly kicking and punching Nichols in the head. Attorneys for Smith and Bean dispute whether they were unable to see or stop Martin's conduct due to the heavy use of pepper spray and the chaos of the arrest. First of all, they didn't see it, and second of all, they could not let go of the suspect. Martin Zumak, who represents Smith, said, "This is crazy to evaluate this case on slow motion video in a 70-degree courtroom versus out there on a dark street." Haley, who arrived at the arrest scene last and kicked Nichols, which his attorney says was to the arm and necessary to help handcuff him. That is a load of crap. Again, when you look at that video, you tell me if any of the stuff that any of those cops did in that video to Tyre Nichols was proper use of force. And you let me know what you think about that. This case is a case that started with officers doing a legal investigation, having probable cause to stop a motorist, having probable cause to put him in handcuffs and search him, and then everything falling apart from there when Mr. Nichols would not cooperate. There it is. So they're basically now saying that now that they've been found not guilty, that Tyre Nichols brought his death on himself. That's literally how this is all playing itself out, that Tyre Nichols is the reason why he's deceased. It's all his fault. You know, let's just blame the victim. That's how it's reading to me, just with that statement right there. For the first time, the defense introduced evidence of items that investigators found in Nichols' car, including a small amount of hallucinogenic drug. The defense also said there were credit and debit cards not in Nichols' name that the defense alleges were stolen. So now here's the part where they are pushing back. They're not pushing back, but they're going after the victim. They're basically putting him on trial and saying even more reason why we had to do what we did. Because I didn't know about the part that they just mentioned about the hallucinogenic drug and the so-called debit cards that were stolen. The prosecution said that officers did not know about the contents at the time of the arrest and that the contents were irrelevant to the officer's conduct. Exactly, because if they were, that would have came out 2 years ago. Like I said, I didn't know about that until now. So yeah, the prosecutors was right on that. That has nothing to do with it because even they were unaware of it. That has nothing to do with the case. Nichols ran from the traffic stop, the prosecution said, because of the officer's aggressive tactics, which included pulling him from his car and shouting combative threats and commands, which we all saw on the body cam footage. It's all there. You know who's not on trial this week? Tyre Nichols. Headley said he's the victim in this case. In the wake of his death, Nichols' parents have become vocal advocates for police reform. His mother is suing the city of Memphis for $550 million. The case is slated to go to trial next year. And that's for, I'm guessing that's like a civil suit. But yeah, so there you go. like I said, I want to say that I'm not surprised, but I'm slightly surprised because if y'all look back in my commentary talking about this, I was looking at it and saying there's no way that they can put these guys on trial and not find them guilty. Like if you go back, I literally say that, and here we are, over 2 years later, and well, it looks like if I was a betting man, I would have lost that bet. And now when you look at this situation right here, that tells me two things. One, that that if you're a black cop and you do this to another black person, now you probably have a chance to possibly get away with this. Not saying that that will always happen for you. And two, that what Rodney Hinton Jr. did on the behalf of his son Ryan was completely justified. And I will be talking about that in a live at a later date. So believe me when I tell you, I will be talking about Rodney Hinton at further length at a later date. This is what it tells me right here, because you can't sit up here and tell me with all the mental molecular things going on in your brain and your eyes to see that these three right here were all found not guilty on every single state charge. There is no way you can sit up there and tell me that, especially if you watched that video that millions of other people watched, and everyone who watched that video, a good 99% of the people with a functioning brain said, oh, these cops are some savages. Oh, they deserve to go to jail. Oh, they need to have the book thrown at them. Oh, they need to be buried underneath the judicial system, and so on and so forth. I don't think I heard one say, oh, they need to go home. Oh, they should be found not guilty. Oh, this, that, oh, that. So they dropped the ball. Another thing I have to ask is this, and maybe someone can find this out for me. What was the makeup of that jury? Demographic wise, ethnic wise, gender wise, all of that stuff. I need to know. What was the demographic of that jury? Because that would tell a story as well. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.
But wait, there's more.
I don't know how I missed this part right here, and I had to go back and do some additional research and see to myself, something is just not connected for me for how they were able to find these three not guilty on every single charge, even though we saw everything that should have clearly convicted them. And then when I went back and saw an updated article to what I've already going over, this popped up, and this is from a separate article. An out-of-town jury from a majority white county took about 8.5 hours over 2 days to find Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith not guilty on all charges after a 9-day trial in state court in Memphis, which is majority black. After the jury's verdict was read, the defendants hugged their lawyers as relatives of the former officers cried. Outside the courtroom, one relative yelled, "Thank you, Jesus." The biggest takeaway from this statement, from this part right here, is an out-of-town jury from a majority white county. So there you go. That is how they were able to get off, because they know if this was a majority black jury, they would have been found guilty on everything. So that's why they did it. Jury nullification is what got these three monsters off. Well, like I said, at least we can lean on with the federal charges, but still, they should have got them on the state charges. But now that I know this, now I see how they got off, because I'm sitting here saying to myself, how in the world did they walk from that on them state charges? And now it all makes sense. It all came down to this. And I also side-eye that judge as well, because he had a hand in this, in all of this stuff right here. So now it's all become very clear to me. So that's how they were able to get away with this, unfortunately.
But wait, there's more.
On top of that, many in Memphis are continuing to react to the not guilty verdicts in the death of Tyre Nichols. And tonight, the most shocking reaction of all: wanted posters, disturbing calls for vigilante justice for the three former police officers who were acquitted in Tyre's death. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Greg Hurst.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Skurlock. The posters are located on light poles in Cooper Young. WREG's Raven Copeland has reaction to the verdicts and the message for the city during this time.
We have gotten so much injustice from this city.
Say that.
That is ridiculous.
Say that.
My son was murdered.
That's right.
By 5 Memphis police officers.
Right. Murder.
He was murdered.
Murder.
And 3 of them got off.
There are people in the Memphis community who share some of the same emotions that Tyre Nichols' family is carrying. Some are more vocal than others. Wanted posters in Cooper Young say the 3 former officers are wanted dead or unalive for Nichols' deadly police beating.
I don't condone those posters at all. I haven't seen them. You see them? Okay, I haven't seen those posters. I don't condone the posting of those posters. What I do understand is a deep hurt and agony and pain for people in this city right now.
Representative Justin Pearson says he encourages the community to express their emotions, but he advises them to do it in a non-violent way. However, he also voiced his disappointment over Wednesday's verdict.
And for someone to see those videos of Tyre Nichols being beaten to death by these officers and to come back with not guilty, like that does something.
The verdict in Nichols' deadly police beating has also resulted in distrust of the Memphis Police Department. However, Memphis Mayor Paul Young and Police Chief C.J. Davis say they're focused on restoring the community's perception of the city's law enforcement.
We recognize the pain and grief this incident has caused, and the men and women of the Memphis Police Department remain committed to rebuilding trust and working together toward a stronger, safer Memphis for all.
Reporting from Cooper Young, for your news leader, Raven Copeland, WREG News Channel 3.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Seeing this was not on my bingo card as it pertains to the update with this. The people down there in Memphis are not playing. I never thought I would actually see this actually happen right here. Now, this right here probably shocked me more than the actual outcome of the case itself. People down there put up wanted posters for these 3. Now, when I first saw this, it kind of threw me off a little bit with the verbiage, and then I had to look at it again. I was like, oh, I see what they did there. They said wanted dead or unalive instead of dead or alive. So basically they said, we can write this any way we want, but this is the outcome we want as it pertains to these individuals. So basically, whoever put these up, and I'm sure they're not going to put out there who did put them up, they want their head. Okay, they don't want them breathing. That's how people are feeling down there about this. And also, if you didn't pick up on this, and this is something I noticed when I was listening to the press conference with Tyre Nichols' mother, is she she said that her son was murdered, and you heard the people around her consistently repeating the word murder. Because the reason why they're doing that is because they're saying, we don't care what the jury came back with, or we don't care how they passed this sentence down, this verdict down. No way how you spin it. We all saw the video. They murdered her son. And they want people to remember that no matter how not guilty they made them out to be, as it came to the decision, they took out her son in a very brutal and savage and violent way. No matter how you try to spin it, that's what happened. In their eyes, in the public's eyes, they are guilty. Point blank, period. But yeah, the people down there in Memphis ain't playing. This actually came up about 3 hours ago. Like, I wasn't even looking for it. Like, I was like just looking to see if there's, I thought the last update that I put was the last thing that I was going to mention in the video. But this right here, I said, oh, when I saw this pop up on my recommended, I said, I definitely have to add this part in there. The people in Memphis are not playing. But 9 times out of 10, these 3 cops, or these 3 individuals right here, most likely have already left the state. They're most likely not even in the state of Tennessee. But now that they see this, there's nowhere that they can really go in public anymore. Basically, this right here was a warning to them. They are now going to be secluded and probably constantly looking over their shoulder anywhere if they go anywhere in public. That's really what it has boiled down to, because they cannot believe, or are very distraught and mad, and rightfully so, about the outcome of what happened with them. Again, this was the state charges, but these were some heavy charges that they had. I mean, y'all saw it on the thumbnail, the charges that they were up against, or that were against them, and they found them not guilty on every last one of them. Yeah, So while the jury did find them not guilty on this, and that was some BS in and of itself, that still doesn't take away the fact that these three right here, as well as the other two, were responsible for the reason why they were even in court to begin with. Because at the end of the day, no matter what the outcome was, a man still lost his life at their hands, at their feet rather, because I mean, they were punching him, kicking him, and taunting him. I wouldn't be surprised if they were spitting on him. I mean, it was straight up savage. Anyone who saw the video cannot deny that. So yeah, hey, it is what it is.